This podcast is the sole property of Proud Sports. Our thoughts and opinions are our own.
Yeah. They say I walk like a king, talk like a king. You can act around now, say the same thing. They chasing the fame, they all want the name. But they ain't got what's running through these veins. Say I walk like a king, talk like a king. You can act around now, say the same thing. They chasing the fame, they all want the name. But they ain't got what's running through these veins. Make way for the king.
Stephen back here with you again on a Proud Panthers podcast, and thanks for joining us, the home for everything High Point University basketball. Really the most comprehensive look that you're going to get out there, and we're happy to bring it to you and appreciate those that follow us on X at Proud Panthers, myself at Stephen Beck PS, and of course the website as well. It's proudsports.com, and it's had a little bit of a refresh, redesign, new stuff going up over there. With a really big, exciting thing happening this week. For those that have supported, I hope that you'll keep your eyes peeled really around 4 o'clock on Tuesday. That'll be something that'll be really cool to be coming out of everything that I've been doing and this what has started as a passion project. So appreciate all those that have been with us throughout following High Point basketball, where just this last weekend, they got a 20-point win over USC Upstate, had to scratch and claw a little bit in the second half. And the hope is that maybe we found a little something. We're going to have a lot on this episode. I'll tell you, it's been one that I'm excited about, maybe more so than others, just because of all the different angles and things that are feeding into this today. So lots to come just after
High
this.
Point University, the premier life skills university, is ranked the #1 best-run college in America by the Princeton Review. Employers value HPU's real-world preparation. Students love unprecedented access to global leaders on High Point's inspiring campus. And parents appreciate HPU's God, family, and country values. Choose to be extraordinary at High Point University.
Back with more Proud Panthers podcast. This whole episode here is one that's taken a little bit more time to bring to you because lots that I just wanted to process, get my head wrapped around, but also lots of different angles and deep stuff here with this bye week that our team has. I think it's really a good opportunity also to maybe reevaluate and refine some things here on the podcast as well. Before we get to a lot of those thoughts, I wanted to bring you Coach Clayman and I meeting up after High Point got their 20-point win, 89-69 over USC Upstate just this last week.
Joining us after High Point gets a bounce-back win tonight, 89-69. Coach Clayman, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
We are looking at another opportunity here where the team has had to show some fight. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about how you have tried to push the team to consider that and then hope that maybe they grab it and run with it themselves as a unit.
Yeah, I mean, it's an everyday thing as a coach, is trying to keep your edge, especially when you're 17-4. Now obviously tonight it was probably a little easier for them to find that edge when we needed it, but we didn't start the game with it. So we've hit a little funk in the season. Luckily, it's only resulted in one loss. Now that was a big one. And I'm not taking anything from Winthrop. They're a heck of a ball club, but, we clearly weren't on our A game that first half. But those last 10 minutes, we showed what we could do. We can't start games like that against top teams like Winthrop.
With two early fouls, Owen and Scotty, depth again is tested. I just am curious. You've had so many different guys rotating through the roster. Are they able to build the chemistry? Is it something that they can try to get into a rhythm with?
I mean, the amount of minutes guys are getting at opportunity at some of these backup spots, I mean, that's about the window of opportunity you're going to get at this level. Like, if you continue to get 7-8 minutes here or there, you got to perform and you got to do some things. And if you do, you'll get more minutes. You know, that's the level of basketball we're at. And if nobody's going to step up, then you got to kind of shorten the rotation. We did that in the second half, but we're looking for a little more depth at the big spot for sure.
Off of the tough shooting night at Winthrop, improved tonight. It's the other things, though, like rebounds, that people generally turn to and they say, man, that's something that's a concern. What is a coachable thing that we could do to look at that?
We got to just go back to the player-led deal. I mean, we're doing rebounding drills every single day to get our hands up. Now, I think guys get reliant on Owen a little bit, handling it. And then when Owen was out in that first half, we gave up 13. And, you know, we're on pace to give up 26. We give up 26, we ain't winning that game. So it's kind of been a rely on Owen and then everybody else kind of figure it out deal. And when he's not out there, then then everybody needs to step up. So we're just going to continue to hammer it. But I saw a turn in our players at those last 10 minutes that I hope sticks.
I agree. I blinked, and next thing you know, we're up by 20 points, and it's like, what happened here? You're going back on the road. Do those games make a difference at all?
Just being away from home is tougher always. I mean, the Cubane Center, where we've only lost one Big South game, a regular season game here in the last 3 years. So we shoot a little better here. You know, this is our home, and we have a great home court. When we see Radford is, in my opinion, if you're going to just say raw talent, they're probably one of the most talented teams in this league. They're playing very well right now. They're 4-1 in the conference. We have a bye, so they have a big game against Winthrop before they play us. But beating Radford on the road, the way they're playing right now, is going to be a tough task. We're going to have to bring a lot better effort than we brought tonight, than we brought against Winthrop, than we brought against Charleston Southern, in my opinion.
Well, you brought up a good point there, and you mentioned maybe we found something here in the second half when that 20-point blink that I had occurred. But there's a bye now. Is it coming at a good time?
I think so. I think it's nice to have a week off. Now, we got to get a little rest. We're not going to have another week off until the last game of the season before the tournament. So we're going to be getting another break right before the conference tournament, which is also nice to have it there. But we got to take advantage of this break. And really, other than rest, we need to work on ourselves. This is your last opportunity to really, really spend some extra time working on yourself, and we'll do that Monday and Tuesday.
Well, Coach Clayman, I appreciate your time, and thanks for being with us.
Appreciate it. Go Panthers.
That was Coach Clayman after High Point defeated USC Upstate. As I mentioned, this last weekend, a 20-point win when it was all said and done. But let's set the table just for a second here over the past little bit of a stretch. Just for people casually maybe peeking in and out, they wouldn't have followed this as close. But High Point jumped into the Big South Conference, ran off 3 wins pretty quickly there. And one of those was a victory over UNC Asheville on the road. It was New Year's last time that we actually saw Cam Fletcher in uniform playing as a High Point University Panther. Now, we've gone back and forth and covered that quite a bit. New comments on that with this episode as well. Once all of that settled in, though, then we lost a tough one against Winthrop, a game that, we looked ahead to it and said, yep, that could be an outlier of some concern. But really, for me, it wasn't necessarily just that, it was a tough fought game. It was, we shot ourselves in the foot a little bit again with regards to that first half and just getting way too far behind the 8 ball to do what we needed to do. Then we show up against Upstate back at home. And it's like, okay, fire has to be lit. And we got to, use that Winthrop loss as kind of a wake up. Well, into the early stretch against USC Upstate, you get a couple early fouls on Owen, you get a couple early fouls on Scotty Washington. And next thing you know, we're looking at a tight game throughout the entire portion of the first half. Halftime score leading into the second half. At halftime, it's 35-31, a 4-point game. And you start to wonder, as a fan, what is happening here? And I don't know if it was that obvious or not. I told Coach Clayman afterwards that honestly, I was ill prepared for our time with one another in that portion you just listened to. More so because my brain itself was in a pretzel. What am I missing? What am I not seeing? Lots happening with Cam. That has been a story and a flux of energy for myself to try to get around and talk about and feed information off of. The next thing you know, you start thinking about, okay, well, it was a tough shooting night. Maybe it was just that at Winthrop. No, I don't think that's right. And then you show up in your home friendly confines and you kind of say, okay, this has got to be a time where there's a good chance that we just blow the top off of this thing again. And we come out at blazing speed to showcase that, hey, we were playing around last game. Now we're not. So these are all just thoughts that just flood in and out through my brain to where I'm like, man, I'm missing something. What I think is I haven't been missing anything at all. I think a lot of what I've been saying was verified there by Coach Clayman with his time with me directly, but also with his time after the game in the official media portion that you can find all those videos on YouTube if you just search High Point Panthers, or if you go to highpointpanthers.com, they usually have those replays as well. And I reference folks to go to that because I'm actually going to be mentioning a few things out of those conversations. Instead of starting, though, where maybe some of the obvious things out of that would be to start, I'm going to start back where we really left off at the end of the first half in Rock Hill. I'm going to start back where we left off at the end of the first half against USC Upstate. I'm going to start where I hope that the team really drills into itself for this full long week where we have a bye. So for those that may not have peeked ahead of the schedule, High Point, no game on Wednesday, while others in the Big South have to play that. We have our next game, a very, very interesting one at that. And, you could say just based off of abilities and skill position type players, it is a challenging one, but that is at Radford on Saturday, 4:30 matchup for that game. So we're wedged here between a time again where the time that we have could be utilized in a very healthy, critical, self-reflective mode that could get things right. It could fix some of the things where we left off at halftime in Rock Hill, and we left off at halftime against Upstate. The depth has been a discussion for our program for 2 seasons. Easy. All last year, the run that we had, a lot of it built off depth. Coming into this season and seeing all the tools and all the pieces that are at our disposal, again, depth is something that immediately at its forefront would be thought to be I would say an advantage for High Point. And in the Big South, I do still think it's an advantage from skill and from talent that's available. Where I think that it has been overlooked is, and where I think a big difference has been between last year's depth discussion and where I found myself sitting on this year's evidence of depth or not. It's all up here in the mind and the mentality of the players on that roster that make up that depth. In other words, last year's depth pieces all believed that no matter where they juggled out for minutes in the game, whether they were starters or not, whether they were a simple practice player versus a role player that is vying for Big South awards. All of those players in that depth conversation knew I'm important. They basically grabbed a hold of the opportunity and they said, whatever it is, I'm going to try to make something out of this. And I feel like, dear end, what Coach Clayman verbalized there in our time as a rough patch in the season, what I really more feel like is this team has hit a place right now where it has some things that it has to own and decide. And it really doesn't have a lot to do with the coaches or the background staff or fans like me and you to be involved with. Ultimately, it's 1 through 15, how many ever guys that we dress. I haven't looked at that exactly lately, but whatever that number is, it's up to that collective group. Everybody on that portion or group has to realize that there's a role and they're a piece, they're a cog in the wheel. And until they own it and lead it, and people inside of that locker room that are on the roster as in a player, until they accept the responsibilities and pick up and run with that, there's going to continue to be patchiness of, hey, we're running, we're doing some things, we're successful, and then, you're going to notice a drop because of a lot of different factors that could happen. One could be that somebody gets in foul trouble. That's exactly what we saw against Upstate the other night. And I'm not saying directly that Owen is to blame or that Scotty is to blame because they got in foul trouble. And so now, we're messed up. We're in trouble. I'm not going to sit here and say that, just like against Winthrop, could we have used Cam? Yes. Would he make a difference? Yes. Is he the standalone cornerstone glue that holds the rest of the team together? No. And that's my point here. It's a whole group team thing that has to mesh, mold, and just blend fully together. It has real opportunities that I noticed and found in the second half. So I spent time briefly after the game catching up with Chase. Chase, to me, and his role in this team this year is vitally more important than I think he would give significance to, and maybe others that are just going off of, this guy scores the most points, or, this guy's got the biggest vertical, or, this guy is the tallest on the team, or, hey, this guy is the one that was recognized by national media. Chase has a real opportunity here, again, to chat with Trey and see and learn and figure out some stuff. And actually, the conversation that Chase and I had was geared a lot in this. Chase being a veteran person is only a small part of it, because you can lead and you can help mend and you can help mold and shape stuff no matter where you're at in terms of your career age or your longevity there. It's more about, I see that there's a real need here and I can fill that need and do it willingly. It all sounds super philosophical, and I'm sorry that it's got to really get to that point, but honestly, that is, I think, the nuts and bolts of a lot of things happening around the roster, around the team, the perception of it, and so on and so forth. We're talking about a team, by the way, that's got 17 wins. We're talking about a team that only has one loss in the league play. We're talking about a team that ultimately still is right where our team was a year ago. Same tracks, same places. Why does it feel different? Why does it seem different? Because it's deeper than just, okay, here's A, B, and C of the points that we scored and the losses that we've had, and oh, this person was injured or something like that. It's a deeper thing. I spent the majority of our time on the Proud Panthers podcast talking coach fed, player led from last year's team. Well, guess what? Coach Kleiman came out, post-game media portion, lots of conversation about player led moments. And I'm starting with Chase. Chase in the second half of this game, yes, by coming in, and yes, by putting up all the 3-point shots that he did, which were 5 of 8 shooting to give him a total of 15 points. Is that a spark statistically that makes a difference? Yes. But if he did not still do that, could he play the role that he needs to on this team and that he can step into? Absolutely. What is that? Well, that is understanding that he needs to be a voice in the locker room. That's understanding that maybe I don't start anymore, but when I do come off the bench, I'm going to make an immediate impact. Maybe that is accepting a space here with less minutes, or maybe it means more minutes. But either way, it means that he is an amoeba. He can shift and he can flow, and he's willing to do it. A player, because of his belief system and who he is as a person with his personality trait, is different than others, but it makes him willing. It makes him accepting. It makes him do it without drama and flair and other things. And that's exactly the place that this team needs him to be. If he owns that and he grasps that, that's going to move this team far further forward than it needs to be. Okay, Owen. If Cam's not there, does Owen need to be a little bit more assertive? Yes. And if Owen grasps that and pushes that forward, it's a lot further for this team than what it would be otherwise. How about Terry? Will you just keep doing what you've been doing? But it's acknowledged that this is all new a little bit for Terry. Terry, for his career, has always been somebody that is overshadowed. He's always been somebody that you heard Coach Kleiman mention it a couple episodes ago when we asked about Terry directly. Oh, that's a guy on a court over there where no other scouts are watching. You don't really need to go give them time of day. That's where Terry's been. And now all of a sudden, he's leading a team playing in a venue like the Cobain Center where everybody knows who he is. Scouts are beginning to realize and see that. It kind of jars your system a little bit. It's unexpected. But Terry has to get used to that. And what he also has to get used to is that he is easily a motor for this team that nobody else has a possibility of being. And honestly, if we just go back to the Upstate first half, he didn't have a good game. He was asked about it in the post-game media portion. There was a full class into the media room. Normally, very quiet venue of myself, of a couple of reporters, maybe from the Enterprise, and maybe one other student reporter. But the other night, we get a full High Point University class, experiential learning. Here they are. And as an aside, I have to mention, Terry was asked about having good rapport with his guards, with Rob and with Conrad. And his answer was that, oh, yeah, I go play laser tag. Yeah, we get together with those guys. I don't see that. A laser tag time of building and camaraderie between Terry and Rob and Conrad. But no, the more direct question for Terry after the game was, hey, you had another double-double, Well, Terry's answer is, I didn't have a good game. And he didn't. But if he grasps that he's a motor, if he grasps that this team is looking up to him, if he grasps that now you're in the limelight, so you have to also manage that as well. You can't get too high on yourself because quickly things will come crashing down, maybe like a first half the other night. If he finds his rightful spot on the team, it's going to push us a lot further forward than if he's just doing things by himself and not understanding, okay, this is my role. This is where I sit. You know who else quickly needs to do that? Well, if Owen's out, depth doesn't look too hot anymore in a way because they haven't fully grasped that role yet. Caden, big boy time now. And I feel like he's owed respect because he's been flushed into a position that preseason wouldn't have been the expectation for Caden. It would have been, okay, maybe you redshirt, maybe you just sit down there at the end of the bench. You're a practice player. You probably won't take that warm-up jersey off the whole year. Well, guess what? That's not where you are anymore. Okay? Where you are is you've been the first big coming up off the bench. The real opportunity is staring you right in the face, and it's like, take hold of it and just run with it. What that means is you can't just get away with, oh, well, he's a freshman. You can't always get away with that. You got to see and realize, okay, this is where I am. If that means that now I got to do extra notes, if that means that, oh, my scout prep for a Logan Duncombe is much deeper because I'm the one that has to face that situation, you got to dive headfirst into it. Instead, what it seems to me from an outsider is, oh, well, everybody's waiting on Owen to do stuff. Oh, okay, well, we're without Cam, and that's just a big loss. Oh, Terry, he's going to do his thing. He's a motor. Oh, well, maybe I can just float out there, and I can just kind of be passive. And that's really what I've noticed from Caden, what I've noticed from Yusuf, and what I've noticed from J.I. Well, none of you need to be passive. All three of you could play very integral, important roles here. And you just have to own that part of your game, and you have to realize it about yourself. So where we circle back to is what has been our best brand of basketball, and then what's the philosophical, deep matter that I've got to search within about myself if I'm on this roster, and there's an obvious hole that has to be filled to figure it out. Honestly, for me, the best lineup that we got the other night was Owen, it was Terry, it was having Braden out there with Chase, and you could either switch Rob or Conrad. I don't really care. But those guys seemed as if they all grasped the best way that our team plays. They gave energy and attention to it, and it sprung us into a significant run and a 20-point win that otherwise would have never gotten there. The best way that this team is going to play is, again, causing havoc on the defensive end, deflections, forcing turnovers, forcing other teams into difficult offensive spots, turning those into quick, fast break points on the other end. That is where we've been our best. And if we're not doing that, then it's going to be a struggle. But that is not where the coaching staff is asking the guys to be. That's not where the guys themselves should realize is best for them to be. At times, it's just been the choice that they've made, and that's kind of the way that they've been playing. And philosophically, that doesn't meet anything that I've spent the past 20 minutes trying to explain. Cam being out, whether he's there or not. Well, questions that have been flying towards me often and have been sitting out there were asked and answered a little bit. Again, back to that same media room where class students, I hate to hesitate to call them a reporter, but they're trying to learn, I'm assuming, about reporting and covering sports teams. And the question was raised, where we've noticed that Williams has been gone for 5 games. I laugh because the looks on Chase and on Coach Clayman's faces as this question's getting asked is like, well, Williams, what am I missing? Who are we talking about? So I tried to fill in some of the blanks, and they were trying to ask about where's Cam been. And the answer is Coach Kleiman gave. Internal matter, but we do expect him to be back. So there is the answer to the elephant questions that have been in the room about where's Cam and what's happening with him. And I felt like I've kind of explained it until I'm blue in the face, but at least we've got a touch more context that's filling in that last blank that I haven't ever given. And that is, okay, clearly, internally, something has been happening here. Does that mesh and fit with the whole team? It hasn't been, but he's still a student and he's still on the team. Okay, that must mean that there is an opportunity, a chance that he's going to come back. Okay, well, now Coach Kleiman has said it is expected that he will return. But you see, why I haven't really been sitting and freaking out necessarily about whether Cam is back or not isn't because of his talent. It isn't because I don't think that he gives us a better chance to win, because I do. It isn't because I have some personal vendetta against Cam and who he is as a person. No, it's actually quite the opposite. I tried to share a few episodes ago. I thought it was very entertaining with him, and his personality and kind of it just is a different, he is different, a bit of a wild card at times. And man, that is entertaining. That's fun. So it's none of that. To me, it's because if he's back, great. If he's not, okay. Because, again, that's not going to just all of a sudden make everything better. It's not all of a sudden going to be daisies and roses, and now we have no more concerns. He was there when we played App State. He was there when we played UAB. He was there when we played these games that showed the same thing that I'm saying the players on the roster have not fully embraced yet and come to terms with yet. He's got to understand, I'm also just a cog in the wheel. I'm also somebody that has to embrace what do I bring to the table and how can we mesh this all together inside of that locker room with the players. The coaches can do some of it. Coach Kleiman, he's going to stand out and he's going to decide with his staff, okay, this person's playing when this person isn't playing and so on and so forth. They're going to juggle the lineup. Well, how's that going to happen? It's going to happen based off of results. Are you to tell me that if Caden didn't actually accept the role and responsibility that is obviously there, and he worked tooth and nail to fill that responsibility, that results wouldn't follow that? I think they would. I know now, after talking to Chase, he's probably still just coming to terms a little bit with this new role that he has. Well, what did that spring us to against Upstate? 15 points, 5 of 8 shooting, out there scrambling around, hustling, doing all the other things, because the minutes that he's playing now, got to make them count. It's going to make a difference. Okay, you're telling me that if Owen doesn't embrace being a little bit more aggressive, that doesn't result in what the stat lines he's been putting up the past few games? Everybody, including Cam, is sitting in the exact same spot that I'm trying to explain is a necessity if the team wants to be successful at its full potential. Otherwise, it can find games where we blow a team out by 40 points. And it can also equally find games where we're in overtime with Charleston Southern. So that is where I have found that we sit today in a bye week stretch where Radford's sitting out there and you know that they have talent, abilities, raw, that is good and it's competitive and the game's on the road. So you put all those factors together and you say, quickly could be a loss. If everybody came around to the idea of, okay, this is what I need to be focused on first, and this is where I can fit in the role in the team. And then as a unit, this is what we all need to be doing to play our best. We can't take possessions off on the defensive end. We can't take possessions off where we don't go hustle and try to get a rebound and give up rebounds like we did against Upstate in the first half and get out rebounded. If they realized and look back and say, this is the best brand that we've offered, Furman, go watch that clip, that game over and over and over and see how many turnovers we forced, how many fast break points we scored, how many deflections we got, and how easy that game ran. The talent is clearly there. They had spent months during the offseason entrenching how this needs to go into their brains. Hit a lull. Now's the time with a full week to replay it and figure it back out. Stephen, the psychiatrist, philosophicist here, is in deep. And that's where the brain of pretzeling and trying to figure out what buttons are right and what's are wrong and up and down and sideways. Well, I've had conversations internally with the team, and I feel like this is a pretty safe place to say what I've said, because I feel like it's real. I feel like it's accurate, and I feel like it's dead nuts, bolts on with what has to happen. Now we just sit back and we say, okay, can it happen? So future questions we're going to be talking about when Cam comes back. Does that throw something off in this wheel that is trying to gain traction and figure itself out? Man, that's a huge question. $1 million answers right there. Your thoughts always welcome at Stephen Beck PS. Next episode of the Proud Panthers podcast coming up on Friday to prep us for Radford, where we take a deep dive look into what's happening there, where I've got more thoughts on whether or not Cam does come back at the end of this week. How is that going? More answers will be on the way, and I hope that you'll join us the next Proud Panthers podcast.